Under the glittering lights of America's Got Talent, two figures stepped out onto the stage, a petite woman in her late 30s and a shy young girl who couldn't have been more than 12. The mother's eyes gleamed with nervous hope, while the daughter clutched her hand tightly, as though it was the only thing keeping her grounded in the moment. The crowd murmured. It wasn't every day they saw a duo like this, humble, soft-spoken, and clearly not from the flashy entertainment world that most contestants seemed to inhabit. Simon Cowell leaned forward, intrigued but skeptical, as he often was. "Hello," said the mother, her Filipino accent warm but trembling. "My name is Lorna, and this is my daughter, Maria. We're from the Philippines." The audience applauded softly. Heidi Klum smiled warmly. "Welcome, Lorna and Maria. What will you be doing for us tonight?" Lorna looked down at her daughter. "We'll be singing," she said softly. "A song that means a lot to both of us." Simon raised an eyebrow. "All right, let's hear it. Good luck." The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the theater. Lorna squeezed Maria's hand once more. The music began, the soft, haunting notes of "You Raise Me Up." The first verse belonged to Lorna. Her voice, though untrained, carried a soulful power that drew immediate attention. It was raw and full of life's aches, the sound of someone who had worked through pain, who had known hunger, and who had prayed for something better. Then, as the chorus neared, Maria opened her mouth, and what came out was nothing short of breathtaking. Her voice soared, pure and crystalline, blending effortlessly with her mother's deeper tones. The audience collectively leaned in, their eyes wide. Simon's expression changed almost instantly, from detached curiosity to stunned admiration. By the second chorus, people were already on their feet. Maria's high notes sent shivers across the room, while Lorna's harmonies wrapped around her daughter's melody like a mother's embrace, soft, protective, and proud. When the song ended, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then, the room erupted. A full standing ovation. Tears rolled down Sofia Vergara's cheeks. Heidi had her hand over her heart. Even Simon, who rarely showed emotion, looked deeply moved. "That," he said after a moment, his voice unusually soft, "was absolutely beautiful." Lorna and Maria stood frozen, overwhelmed. Maria's hand clung to her mother's arm. "How long have you two been singing together?" asked Howie Mandel. Lorna smiled nervously. "Since Maria was 5, we used to sing in the streets of Cebu, for money." The crowd gasped softly. "Really?" said Heidi. "You were street performers?" "Yes," Lorna said, nodding. "I used to sell food by the roadside, and Maria would sing beside me. Sometimes we made enough for rice, sometimes not. But singing made us happy, even when life was hard." Simon leaned back in his chair, visibly touched. "Well," he said slowly, "I think all those years on the streets gave you something you can't teach, soul. You both have something very, very special." The judges looked at each other. And then, with a smile, Simon reached forward and pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down. Lorna burst into tears, collapsing to her knees as Maria screamed in disbelief. The audience roared, clapping and cheering as mother and daughter hugged tightly under the golden rain. Simon walked up to the stage. "You two," he said, "just gave one of the most moving performances I've ever seen on this show. You reminded everyone what music is supposed to do, touch hearts." That night, their lives changed forever. Before AGT, life in Cebu had been a constant struggle. Lorna had once dreamed of being a singer herself. As a teenager, she would sneak into karaoke bars, pretending to be old enough to perform. But dreams were hard to chase when you were poor. Her parents couldn't afford school, let alone music lessons. So, when she got pregnant at 20, she gave up her dreams for survival. Her husband, a tricycle driver, did his best, but when he got sick and passed away suddenly, Lorna was left alone with a small child and mountains of debt. There were nights they went to sleep hungry. Days when she couldn't afford to send Maria to school. But Maria never complained. Instead, she sang. She sang when it rained, when the power went out, when her mother cried quietly in the corner. Her voice brought light into their small wooden home, a sound so pure it made neighbors stop and listen. Soon, people began inviting her to sing at local gatherings and small events. They never paid much, sometimes just food, sometimes a few coins, but it was enough to keep them going. One day, a tourist from America happened to pass by as Maria was singing on the street. He recorded her performance and uploaded it to YouTube. Within days, the video exploded, millions of views, thousands of comments praising her voice. That video was how a local charity contacted them and offered to sponsor their trip to audition for America's Got Talent. At first, Lorna refused. "We don't belong there," she said. "We're just ordinary people." But Maria, with tears in her eyes, said, "Mama, maybe this is the chance Papa wanted us to have." So they went, borrowing clothes, borrowing courage. Their Golden Buzzer audition became one of the most watched moments in AGT history. Within hours, social media flooded with praise. This is what AGT is about: real people, real stories, real talent. That little girl has the voice of an angel. I cried watching this. A mother's love in song form. They were invited to talk shows, interviewed by media outlets around the world. Lorna, still shy and humble, always said the same thing: "We are just thankful. We sing for those who never get to chase their dreams." When the semifinals came, the pressure was higher than ever. This time, they chose "The Prayer," originally by Andrea Bocelli and Celine Dion. From the first note, it was clear, this performance would be legendary. Maria's soprano soared higher than ever, her youthful tone blending seamlessly with her mother's matured voice. The harmony was flawless, the emotion, overwhelming. By the end, Simon was visibly wiping away a tear. "You two," he said, standing up, "might just win this whole thing." But behind the smiles and applause, Lorna was struggling. The travel, the sudden fame, it was all overwhelming. She didn't tell anyone, but she was sick. The long nights of selling food in the rain had taken a toll on her lungs. Her doctors had warned her months before the show that she needed rest, but how could she rest when her daughter's dream was finally within reach? She pushed through every rehearsal, every interview, every stage moment, smiling through pain, hiding her cough. One night, after practice, Maria found her sitting quietly backstage, breathing heavily. "Mama, are you okay?" Lorna smiled weakly. "I'm fine, Anik, just tired." But Maria wasn't convinced. "You don't have to do this for me." Lorna took her daughter's hand. "I'm not doing this for me, or for fame. I'm doing this because I want you to believe that no matter how hard life gets, dreams are still worth singing for." The finals came. The crowd was electric. The judges were excited. For their last performance, they sang an original song, written by Lorna herself, called "Home Is You." It was a song about a mother's love. About sacrifice, about holding on when everything else falls apart. Maria started softly, her voice trembling with emotion. Then Lorna joined in, and the theater felt like it was holding its breath. The lyrics spoke of nights spent under candlelight, of prayers whispered for a better tomorrow, of a little girl who made her mother believe again. By the final chorus, both were crying as they sang. The audience was too. When they finished, the judges stood, all of them. The crowd cheered so loudly it shook the stage. Simon looked up, his voice breaking slightly as he spoke. "This show has been on for many years. We've seen incredible acts, amazing voices, but what you two just did, that was love turned into music. And love always wins." They didn't win the AGT trophy. But they won something greater, the world's heart. After the show, they were invited to perform around the world: London, Sydney, Tokyo. Charities and sponsors offered to help them record their own album. Back in Cebu, their community gathered around a small TV to watch every episode, crying and cheering for the two who had once sung for coins on the streets. They used their newfound fame not to live lavishly, but to give back, building a small music school for underprivileged kids, where Lorna taught and Maria led the choir. The school's motto, painted proudly on the front wall, read, "Dreams don't die in poverty, they rise in harmony." Years later, Maria would go on to become one of the Philippines' most beloved voices, performing for presidents, recording chart-topping albums, and inspiring young singers everywhere. But no matter how big her stage became, she never forgot where it all started. Every Mother's Day, she would perform "You Raise Me Up" with her mother, just like that first night on AGT, the song that changed everything. And every time, Lorna would whisper before the first note, "Ready, Anik." Maria would smile, always, "Mama." Then, as the music began, two voices would rise once more, one shaped by life's struggles, the other by its hope, blending perfectly into a sound that reminded the world that love, faith, and song can turn even the poorest dream into something golden. And in that harmony, the spirit of every Filipino mother and child who had ever dared to dream lived on, unbreakable, unstoppable, and unforgettable.